Welcome to the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone, and today on the program, I sit down with an all-star and a World Series champion.
I sacrificed a lot to come to New York. I wanted to be a part of something special.
He made me a better player, a better person.
Roy Halladay is my guy, man. He was tough.
Welcome to the Bret Boone Podcast. I am Bret Boone. Mets off to a great start. Yankees off to a great start. Both respectively first place here about 3.5 weeks into this young season. Here to discuss it is SNY's Andy Martino. Eddie, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure, Bret. Anytime you ask, I'm here. This is always a good baseball conversation.
All right, I'm sure you're not sick of this. I got to talk about it, though, because I've got my thoughts on it, but I want to hear from you who knew how it came about, the context it was put in, if it was out of context, if it was perfectly in context. Juan Soto's comment.
Yep.
How did it come about, and what was actually said? I want to get your take, and then I'll give you on the ground if a player in my clubhouse has that reaction. Okay, go ahead.
I'd be interested to hear that. So I'll tell you how it went down. I did a lot of working and thinking about this last week because it was a big story in New York, although I was not with the Mets in Minnesota where it was said. I was with the Yankees home playing the Royals, but that gave me really interesting perspective too, talking to Aaron Judge about this, but I'll get to that. Basically, for your listeners that weren't following the blow-by-blow on this, Mike Puma of the New York Post, longtime beat reporter, was a competitor of mine, but respectable, does a good job, been on the beat a long time, asked Soto in Minnesota about the difference between batting with Judge, is his lineup protection, Judge behind him, versus not, right? And Soto gave an accurate analytical answer saying, well, it's a little different. I'm being pitched a little differently. I'm being walked a little bit more. This was true. And, Soto tends to, which I really appreciate, answer a baseball question with a baseball answer. I did a story with him in spring training where he broke down every pitch of that at bat in Cleveland against Hunter Gaddis, where he hit the home run since the Yankees were the World Series, basically. He has great recall and intelligence about the game. So he's answering Puma's question in a baseball way. However, of course, it gets played in terms of headline and opinion of like, oh, is he taking a shot at Alonso? Is he saying he misses the Yankees? In New York, there's a lot of like speculative fallout for stuff like that. So that became a story. I defended Soto saying, hey, look, if we're going to ask him questions and he answers them, we shouldn't be ripping him for it. He just gave an honest answer. And I can tell you, Bret, and now I want to ask your opinion about it. But in terms of the potential fallout in his clubhouse with Alonso, what's more important to Pete Alonso is that Soto looked Steve Cohen in the eye before he signed with the Mets and said, if I'm signing here, I want Pete Alonso. I want that lineup protection. He lobbied for it after he signed. Scott Boras continued. They're both Boras clients. It's convenient. I get it. But Boras continued to tell Cohen, it's important to Juan that you sign Pete, that you bring Pete back. So that's means more to Alonso than a quote in the paper that he advocated to get him paid and have him brought back, which he, of course, ultimately was. So I can tell you that within the Mets clubhouse, everything I heard was it wasn't seen as controversial because they understood that and they like Juan. But that's the inside view. But I could see how someone might see it differently. So I'm interested in what you have to say.
Well, I think, and still, the context is so important when we're talking about stuff like this. It goes without saying, I think at this stage of the game, it goes without saying that Aaron Judge is that North Star of hitters in today's game. He's the Barry Bonds of my generation. Okay.
Yep.
So no one's ever going to take it as a slight if you have to play second fiddle to Barry Bonds. It's almost a compliment, like, wow, I'm second. He was that great. I think what Aaron Judge is doing right now, I don't know if it's Bonds level, but it's close. I mean, he is, and I watch him time and time again, and I'm more impressed, not only for how he handles himself. It's kind of a Jeter-esque, the way he handles himself, but the way his at-bats, when, and he'll have his times throughout the season where he'll get lost there for a week.
Sure.
But when he's seeing the ball like Aaron Judge sees the ball, it seems like he slows the game down more than anybody else. His takes and the way that he sees the ball, he spits on nasty pitches just off the plate. It's next level stuff. Nobody else in the game I see sees the ball as well as Aaron Judge. So it's never going to be a slight, even to Pete Alonso, who's off to an MVP start. Let's be honest. It's never going to be a slight to play second fiddle to an Aaron Judge. That being said, it's all context. It's how it was said. Alonso might have been within shouting distance, and they may have a relationship. And Soto could have said, "Yeah, if I had Aaron Judge here, Alonso, wink, wink, nod, nod." It could have been as simple as that. I don't see it being a problem in the clubhouse. The bottom line is this, and one of the most you hear it all the time from fans, from people about, oh, it would be great to hit in front of him because you'll get all fastballs. That's the biggest misnomer in the history of sports.
Right.
I remember when I came to the big leagues and I had never hit second before. And they hit me second in front of Junior, Kenny. They said, oh, it must be great hitting second in front of Kenny because you're going to get fastball. Yeah, just because I'm hitting there, I'm going to get fastballs down the middle. Well, this is the big leagues, and I'll tell you what, they're going to go to what they're going to get me out with. So if that takes a 2-0 slider, big leaguers could throw 2-0 sliders for strikes. So one of the biggest misnomers in sports is who's hitting behind you. Now, when it comes to intentional walks, absolutely. And if you're a Juan Soto and what you did last year and how you commanded the batter's box, my opinion, what I saw last postseason was there was Juan Soto and there was everybody else as far as owning that stretch. He was a standout for me offensively in the postseason with all the great players. I think Juan Soto really stood out, and I think that's a big reason he got the money he got.
No doubt.
But other than the intentional walks, which you just signed for $750 million. It's kind of like nobody wants to hear a sob story or an excuse. And from the context you're telling me, it wasn't really an excuse. It was just kind of, no, it's a little different when Aaron Judge isn't behind you, which to me, as a teammate, I would sit there and go, you're right. There is no other Aaron Judge. Right. It's really not a big deal. It's not important what we think or our opinion or talk radio's opinion. It's important what his teammates in that locker room right now think. And as long as Pete Alonso and those guys are cool with it, nobody really cares. And I sloughed it off like it's really not a big deal because it was probably said in a way where Pete understands that's all that matters. And we can make a big story about it and say this and give our opinions about that. The bottom line is who cares? As long as Pete Alonso's not pissed off about it and his teammates are cool with it, this goes forward. The only thing I can think that would be funny, let's just say I said something like that off the cuff. For the next probably couple weeks walking around the locker room, every time I had if I had a rough game 0 for 4, I'd probably be getting my going into the training room the next day and some relief pitchers would go, Booney, man, it would have been a lot better if you were on such and such team and have him hitting behind you. That's all I would say he lended himself to with some jabs from his teammates for the next couple weeks. But that being said, with the start they're off to, I don't see this. I just wanted to get that from you because you're going to hear the real story and who asked it and how it was answered. So they're winning.
And they weren't upset, Brett, just like you said, just to put a bow on this. When the Mets came back into town later in the week, I talking to the coaches, talking to players, talking to Carlos Mendoza, it was like, this wasn't that big a story in Minnesota. It played big in New York with talk radio and, all the noise that I'm part of in New York. It's that whole machine. But when the Mets are playing out in Minnesota that week, and it just wasn't that big of a topic for them. So your read on it, your feel for it is absolutely how it played out.
Yeah. That being said, do you see a difference? Is he the same guy who was a year ago that you interacted with when he was a Yankee, just changing venues over the Mets?
Interacting with him is great still, and maybe even a little better because seems to understand his responsibility to be even more of a guy in that sense. I mean, Soto's a very pleasant young man, right? And young is the key here. Like, this is a kid, like, he goofs around with other young players, particularly other young Dominican players who he's really comfortable with, but everybody Really analytical and accessible for a superstar. His level of fame and skill, he's unbelievably accessible. He sits in his locker. You walk up to him, you have a question. He's great. So from that standpoint, I'd say he's the same, if not better, this year as he's a year older. And like I said, more the guy with the Mets. I will say, though, that there's a difference in how he's played so far over this. We're talking the morning after the Mets just finished a 4-game sweep with the Cardinals. Soto's picking it up a little over the weekend. But prior to that,
got 3 hits. Got 3 hits.
Yesterday. Yeah. So it's getting better. Prior to that, there's no doubt that he was chasing some pitches out of the zone that we didn't see him chase with the Yankees. It's hard to get inside a guy's head, but it had the appearance of a human being feeling like maybe there's a bit of a $765 million target on his back. Yeah. I think he loved the Yankees, and Mets fans don't want to hear that. And that was part of why this became a big deal last week, is it tapped into that. And what I was arguing was 2 things can be true. Like, take it out of baseball for a second. A guy can absolutely love his job and love his coworkers, but he can make a difficult decision. It was a close decision to leave for another job and still miss the old coworkers, but at the same time, not regret it or anything that strong and be settling in nicely over time with a new place. So that's what's going on. He loved playing for your brother very, very much. And he was really comfortable under that Aaron Judge leadership strategy, because when he got there to the Yankees, Judge said, you don't have to be the guy. We got MVP, Cy Young, batting champ. Just be Juan and play. That's it. Just play. And even though it was a walk year, he didn't play with a lot of pressure because Judge was like, just be Juan. And that's who he is. He's not, personality-wise, he's not Judge. He's not Lindor, where he wants to step up and be that outspoken guy. For someone who's that as great as he is a baseball player, I don't think he really has an interest in fame or attention that much. He just wants to play. He's like a hitting savant. And so that really worked with the Yankees. He was able to blend in a little, and they rode that dynamic all the way to the World Series. With the Mets, he's lucky that he has Lindor, because Lindor wants to be that guy too, like Judge does. But he's finding it a little harder to blend in because who he is, the contract. Mets fans are so happy he chose them that they want to look at him and have all the attention on him. So there's no doubt that that's been an adjustment for him. He wasn't doing the shuffle for a while, and they noticed it on the bench. Like, he's not doing a shuffle. So it's like, is he playing with a little less joy? These are the questions the Mets people were kind of wondering. But the root of this truth, Brett, is that he's just adjusting and a good guy, and it's trending in the right direction. But he's a human being, right? And it's a different environment.
Well, it's funny, the shuffle, okay, and that's his thing. I found this so much as a hitter, and when I was rolling, I didn't have to do much. It was a look, it was eye contact with the pitcher, like, you better be careful, but you already know you better be careful. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, Andy, the flip side of that was when I was scuffling and wasn't picking up the ball, or I was just having one of those, I was in a funk. I'd stand on deck and think through my mind, okay, how can I mentally give off an appearance that everything's great and I'm going to kick your ass? And I tried. But all right, should I change my body language, have more of a confident walk? And I found that the majority of the time I couldn't fake it. I would try to have this presence, like, you better not mess with me. I'd get in the box, and that look that I'd give the pitcher, or we would catch eyes, when I wasn't feeling it, he could tell I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like we'd catch eyes and like, hey, I know you're scuffling right now. Right? Yeah. Right. I know it. Mm-hmm. You know it. If you get a hit here, it's going to be a miracle. Mm-hmm. And it's something you can't fake. I watched Juan a year ago. And, man, when he started shuffling and he gave you that genuine, some people call it cocky. Some people call it confidence off the chart. But I'll tell you what, when he was really revving up that shuffle, you're in trouble. You better not miss. And more times than not, how many times do we see him get a big hit or hit a big home run? If you do the shuffle all the time and you're scuffling, well, it's going to lose kind of its luster. Like, who cares if he does the shuffle? He's making outs all the time. When you start shuffling, that's kind of him telling you, I'm seeing these pitches really well.
Great point.
and that's my. I haven't watched him that much this year, but that's my
Mhm.
take on it. I saw him in San Diego 2 years ago where he figured it out, and he ended up having a really good year before he got traded to the Yankees. But early in the season, check that out. He was really having a tough time, and people were
Mhm.
talking about giving him a blow and sitting him down. And I remember him
Mhm.
saying, "I don't want a day off. I hit my way through this." And there was a lot made of it early in the season. He ended up having an all-star caliber year.
Mhm.
Not the year that he had last year with the Yankees, but I've seen him go through this before. So if you're worried about Juan Soto turning from this great player into a mediocre hitter, that's not going to happen.
No, no.
He's off to a slow start, but he's at the end of the day, he might not have the year he had a year ago, but the numbers are going to be somewhat where I usually find that with great players. You're going to go through ebbs and flows. At the end of
Mhm.
the year, you're going to flip over that bubblegum card. Some years you're going to be on the high end of the bubble card. Some years you're going to be on the low end. And then most of the time you're kind of going to be somewhere right in the middle. And at the end, he's gonna be somewhere in the middle. So I don't worry about him long term. The
Great.
760 and what might be affecting him right now, you're not human if it doesn't affect you.
Mhm.
A year ago, he handled everything great. He handled the media great in New York. He handled the whole situation great. I've commended him many times for the way he handled the Yankee fans and
Mhm.
his teammates. He was always, "Hey, I love it here." But he always reserved the right to let everybody else bid. He made a choice. I wasn't mad at him. I don't think anybody's really mad at him going, no, he felt most comfortable playing for the Mets because at the end there was a lot of I think the money was similar in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. He just felt for him and he earned that. He turned down 400 million with the Washington Nationals.
Mhm.
You get to a point and probably one time in your life where you're going to be a free agent. And if you if you're in the right place at the right time, which a year ago he was, and you and your agent come in and take advantage of that, I've got no problem with that. So
Right.
the only thing is you've got to expect as a player when you sign a contract like that, a lot comes with that. And you're expected
Mhm.
to be accountable and you need to get up and you need to be have something to say, good, bad, indifferent. I think
Yeah.
you owe that to the fans when you sign that kind of contract. And I used to say it all the time. I said, if you don't want to be accountable, be a utility player.
Right.
Make the league minimum, and no one will ask you to do an interview after the game. You want to be the
Mhm.
highest paid player in the world? Well, there's something that comes with that,
Yeah,
and
and
that's a part of
sorry.
it. And you know what you're
Yeah,
signing up for.
for sure. And he's been great with that so far. Like I
Yeah,
was saying before, he's available, he's accountable, he's stand up. I'd say so if I could try to summarize like the difference in his like personality so far the best I could. It's just more if you look at like I was saying before, you look at Lindor and Judge, these guys that are actively like not out of ego, but out of leadership. Like, come to me, talk to me, make me the guy. I want to be the
right.
lightning rod for this clubhouse. Those are the guys that speak up in the meetings privately. The guys who take the bullet with the media when no one else wants to talk. That Lindor's not technically the captain, but it's that captain type leadership. And Soto, well, he's accountable, just doesn't want to be quite. He's just a more introverted person who's really like thinks about hitting all the time. So that's the difference in the personalities. But you're right. The money means that there's going to be more attention on you, and uh, I think he's adjusting to that a little, but what he has on his side is that he's not like he gets it. He's trying. I've seen Mets PR be like, already, can you talk after a bad game? And Juan's like, okay. So he
Yeah,
does get that part of it.
yeah, and it helps that his team's off to a great start, and
Yeah.
uh, you're top of your division. And I always say this, I always throw this in, but I'm a huge fan of Mendoza, and I think he
Oh
did a
yeah.
great job. He got to play for Aaron, now he's playing for Mendoza. I think it's interchangeable, both really good dudes and like-minded, and worked together
Very
for
much.
years and years.
Hmm.
All right, well, let's get into the Mets. I've got to be honest, going into the season, um, I don't have the Mets on my scorecard for that division. I'm thinking,
Hmm.
the Montas and the Mania, who both haven't pitched yet. With all the offseason moves the Mets made, I was thinking they didn't do enough of their pitching staff, and they can't pitch enough in that division to beat the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. Everybody knows how the Atlanta Braves started, as bad as you can.
Yeah.
They're coming though. If you watch them, they're starting to come, and Acuna's coming back soon. Strider has only made one start, but that's going to be a real formidable team, and they're going to be, a part of that race down the stretch. But I'll be the first to admit, I didn't expect this. The Mets, as of today, they got the lowest ERA not only in the National League, but in baseball. And a lot of that is surprising me. Let's start with that team first. Alonso off to an unbelievable start off after that winner. I thought all along, sometimes it's better to just come home. Alonso came home to New York where they love him. And sometimes that's good for the soul. And he's off to a great start. But let's talk about offense, what you're seeing right now and what's making them the team they are right now.
I think one of the things that's so impressive about their offense and promising about their offense is that they're scoring runs and winning games without a lot of guys really firing yet. Alonso's put them on his back, obviously, like a great player can do, and he's been unbelievable, like you said. And definitely, to your point about coming home, he just seems as comfortable and happy and in as good a place as I've seen him in years. So that's all working right now, and that's great. But Vientos hasn't been hitting much. I mean, he's starting to come around, but overall the numbers aren't there yet. Francisco Alvarez hasn't even played yet. He's been hurt. Nimmo really is starting to come around, but that's a guy in the middle of the lineup that really hasn't been off to the start that he wanted. And Lindor's been a little up and down. He's had some big hits, but he's also says he's not really that close to where he wants to be overall. So the fact that they're leading the division and winning games, like I said, and Soto obviously not firing just yet the way he can. So that shows that they've got enough like diversity within the lineup and different looks and different approaches, and they're pitching well enough, like you said, where they can win games without having that kind of offense that bludgeons you. In spring training, there was some talk about do they have one of the best lineup in baseball, them or the Dodgers. I thought that was probably a little overstated because there's some things that have to go right, like Vientos has to avoid the sophomore slump and things like that. Alvarez has to finally come into his own. So I don't know that they're a top offense, but it definitely seems like it's going to be good enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think of them as in the Dodger category offensively. But as far as a formidable offense, absolutely. But if you want to talk about offense, I don't think you have to even look farther than your division. With that Phillies lineup at full steam and that Atlanta lineup at full steam, they're both, I think, as good as the Mets at full steam. That's just my opinion. Sure. And we'll see going down the line. Senga, leading the league in ERA. Obviously, we know the last couple of years what he's been doing. Just haven't been able to stay on the field. But are we getting to see what kind of an inside look at what is possible for Senga at the top of that rotation? They've all been doing great.
Yeah.
Holmes, as much as I haven't seen him pitch that much, seems to be making a pretty good transition from closer to starter. But McGill, Canning coming over from the Angels, Peters, they're all doing their job right now. Talk about that rotation and what it means. And give me a little insight on when we can see. I know Manaya's got that oblique. When we could possibly see him back and when we could see Montas later on in the season.
Yeah, so first on the rotation, I completely agree with you. Just about everyone thought before the season, like, I'm not seeing it on paper. Like, why didn't you get more starting pitching? I don't understand. You signed Soto. Why did you then not go out and get more for your rotation? That was a very logical question. When I put it to Mets people all spring, they'd be like, no, we feel really good about our rotation, like very confident. So trying to dig into why, and one thing that David Stearns and his people in Milwaukee kind of made Stearns' name on, and why he became such a hot GM candidate that the Mets wanted, is they know how to find, and obviously Yankees are really good at this too, find really good pitching where you're not necessarily looking for it in the most obvious places. They know how to say, like, all right, this guy's trending upward for Tampa or for, the Angels or for whoever. Let's take what he's doing and we can then help him get to the next level. Actually, Canning's a really good example. They felt like there's a really good slider there. And frankly, with the Angels, they don't have the most tools. They're not the most up-to-date organization with all the pitching tech and everything. So maybe the Mets are thinking, boy, you take that guy and run him through our pitching lab and we have confidence in our pitching program. I'll bet there's another level we could find with that slider. So that's an example of how they're able to help get the most out of guys. So they've made the right choices so far, other than Montas, who they guaranteed $34 million to him, I believe. He hasn't pitched yet, and it's going to be a while. It was a high-grade lat strain. Montez had that injury history. If there's one choice that the Mets made that you can still scratch your head on a little, maybe it's that one. But overall, Stearns has hit on a lot of the pitchers that they've signed so far. And you trust that they're smart enough where if a reliever starts to burn out or if somebody doesn't pitch as well, that they know how to find a guy to replace him and churn through. Like with the Yankees bullpen, you don't know what the names are going to be in the Yankees pen, but you know that that organization is going to find good relievers and that Matt Blake then is going to help get the most out of them. Similar dynamic developing with the Mets. Your question about Minaya, he had a little setback. It was supposed to be late April. It's pushing it into May or June now. And the one thing he did last year to become so good was one of the things was drop his arm angle, throw across his body. So there's been pitching people that have wondered, like, well, gee, maybe when a guy throws differently than he's thrown his whole life, their body's going to feel that. So there's some question about, like, when he comes back, exactly if he's going to be able to continue to use the mechanics that gave him that great year last year. But even without him, like you said, they're pitching great.
I look at where's he going to pitch? Who's he going to replace?
That's a great question.
It's always good though. In today's game, as much as I joke about it, you need 7, 8 pitchers to weather this 162. It's not like it was 30 years ago where you had 5 good guys, you felt good. Now you got to have 7, 8 guys because it seems like with the injuries, people they just drop it. There's more injuries than there used to be. I think it's pure and simple. Look at that bullpen. Yeah. Bullpen seems to be doing great. Are you concerned at all with Diaz?
Yeah.
And how does the rest of the staff look for you down in that bullpen?
Yeah, it's a good bullpen. Same answer. Like Stearns is almost at that point where you're like, they'll figure it out over the course of the season. They know that the opening day or the April bullpen is probably not, if they're in the playoffs, the playoff roster is going to look pretty different. That's the way bullpen churn goes. But I do think, a more serious question is Diaz isn't going anywhere, obviously. And I think because of his history of some inconsistency and because of the way that his command can't come and gone this year, like it has sometimes when he's scuffled in the past, that it's fair to wonder what you're going to get when Diaz comes into the game sometimes. And that's something just like the Yankees with Devin Williams that you go, boy, if you could feel great about your closer right now, the whole thing would feel just a little bit better, even though things are going great. So I think it's fair to put Diaz in that category. He can come out and have a dominant outing anytime, obviously. But the Mets, even in spring, were looking at his command, particularly his fastball command, going, this isn't quite where it's supposed to be. And that has continued so far on and off.
Well, good. I think this Mets team is really good, but I think it's this Phillies team is really good, as you know.
Yeah.
That it's about as solid as it gets, with the exception of the Dodgers. And that Atlanta team, I watched them go 0-7, but I've seen since then and guys getting healthy. I think Atlanta, even though they're sitting there bottom of the division at 8-13, they're going to be a factor before it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. All right. Yankees. And here's what I wanted to say, because being who I am, being who my brother being who he is, me in this industry, being an analyst, having to give takes, going on WFAN, I pride myself as being as honest as I can be, and Aaron's Aaron, but I'm going to critique Aaron when I feel Aaron's good. I'm going to do it in a professional way, almost to the point of, I go out of my way not to give him too much credit, because I don't want them to say, oh, of course his brother's going to say that, which is not true at all. I'm very honest with Aaron. We agree on a lot of things. We disagree. Sometimes things I would do, I'm right. Sometimes things I would do, he's right.
Right.
But because he wouldn't do that. But I'll tell you, it just the other day, it sat to me and I thought, Andy's coming up. I'm going to tell him, because you deal with Aaron all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Since he took that job, and I've watched these teams that he's had, and they were very flawed teams, injury prone. A few years back, they won 100 games. I don't know how they did it. They had half their roster on the IL the entire year, and the scrutiny that's on him, and that's part of the deal. You want to be a big boy and be the New York Yankees manager? Well, here's what comes with it. You're going to be scrutinized maybe more than anybody in Major League Baseball, and that's part of the deal. When you say it's like when Soto signs for 700, I'll tell you what, you want to sign for this money? It's pretty cool, isn't it? But here's what comes with it. It's like if you want to be, and I tell Aaron that all the time. You want to be the skipper? Here's what comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just sitting there thinking, what a great job I think my brother has done, and I want to say that this is what I'd like to say if my name wasn't Boone.
Mm-hmm.
He really has done a nice job. I mean, he's been there, I think, 7 years. Took him to the playoffs every year except for one. He's won 100 games, I think, 5 times. And it's not with these World Series caliber rosters year in and year out. It's just not, if you're being honest about it. And I'm proud of him because this year, I'm looking at this. You start off with Cole and Heel, Rookie of the Year. Your two arguably best pitchers. Well, you got Max Fried. He's pretty good. They're down to start the season. Stanton's down to start the season. You lose Soto. Here they are winning the division again.
Yeah.
Early. There's a long way to go. You know, I think Toronto's better. I think Boston's better than a lot of people think. So it's going to be a battle in that division as well, just like in the East, the National League East, I think, than the National League West. But I just kind of wanted to say that today because it's not often I sit there and go, oh, my brother's doing great, because that's just not how I am. And I also need to be really fair because I don't agree with everything he does. But I think I just wanted to take this opportunity because I know you're have a nice relationship with him.
Yeah.
You get to see him all the time. I wanted to say that I'm kind of proud of him. And I'm going to take this one point now. I'll be critiquing him tomorrow. But I think he's, with all the variables and all he's been through, I think he's really done a hell of a job.
Oh, I agree. And I'm in a place of being able to look at it objectively. And I know him personally. I think he's a really good person. But that aside, and that's which is part of what makes him such a good manager, of course. The players know how much he cares about them. But in game, I cannot tell you the last time he did something where you're like, that makes no sense. Early on there, and he and I have talked about this early on, like in that 2018 division series versus the Red Sox, he maybe didn't, like, there were some pitching changes where he maybe left the guy in too long or put a guy into a tough spot. I'm thinking about CC being in a game a little long, thinking about putting Lance Lynn in a game with the bases loaded when he hadn't done that before. There were some learning curve things with managing the pitching that first year that I haven't seen evidence of in years. Like, he's become tactically really tight. And anytime I've had a question about a move, he's had a fully rational explanation. I don't think he ever does anything without great reasoning behind it in a game. Whether or not, that's the beauty of baseball. We can agree or disagree and debate like the move, but he's always doing it with a lot of thought behind it. So I couldn't agree more. The fact that he gives 2 press conferences a day in New York and does it well, I think is a huge part of, I know it's a huge part of why the Yankees value him. Cashman's always said, like, I could not do that. I could not talk to you guys every day. It just would kill him. It would just grind him down. And the fact that Boone does that so well, Cashman appreciates. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think if there's like a tool that he has that's a little extra, it's that the belief that he has in players is so severe that the only time I can ever get him mad at me is if I say something critical of one of his players, even if that player is not playing well. It's like, because he loves them so much. Like the day, I think we talked about, or maybe texted the day that Marcus Stroman didn't come to spring training on time. And then he said, I'm going to be a starter no matter what. That whole thing in spring. Right. Aaron was like, took great umbrage that anyone would have a problem with Stroman. And he meant it. Like he was, like, reasonable people could be like, I don't like what Marcus is doing right now. Right. But I don't know if you're talking about it, but Aaron's like his backup. It's like, this is not a big deal. I love Stro. And it's like Stroman feels that. We could pick that apart. But Stroman's in there like, this guy really has my back, like authentically. So I think I can see up close how well he does that. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't seem rational, but it works.
Believe me, Andrew, and I'll take this spot because I'm probably going to get ripped for give him a little praise today because he's my brother. I really don't give a shit because I'll tell you like it is. And he's like Aaron or not like him. It's really undebatable that he hasn't done a really nice job for the Yankees.
So,
But no, you're right. Now I can laugh at him a little bit. He really does believe it. And so I
Mhm.
think he is irrational at times. I'll have a
Yep.
conversation with him and he'll give that attitude to me about a player. And I'll look
Yeah.
at him in the face and go, you can't be serious. And this is not a fact, Aaron. This is all opinion. And just because your opinion is one way, it's far from fact. You've been wrong you've been wrong. But he'll fight to the death with you. That's part of him. That's a part of the way
And that's why
part of the
another
way
one.
he's always been.
Carlos Rodon the other day. I saw Aaron on the field day after Rodon started, gave up a few big hits, lost. Not his recent really good one in Tampa, but the one before that. And I was like, oh, Rodon's struggling a little. And he got mad. Like,
what are you talking about?
he's pitching great.
Right.
What that, and it's the same point. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Like, I was thinking his velo is a little down. He's not the fastball slider guy he was a couple years ago. This and that. And Aaron's like, he's looking at me like, what are you talking about? He's a stud. And Rodon appreciates that. I guarantee you.
He does. It like Andy, how dare you question Rodon?
Exactly.
He has never struggled in this game.
Exactly.
It's
But
hilarious. But that's
it's
him.
great. I don't know how good a pro scout that would make him unless he put on a different hat, but it makes him a great manager.
It does. And players do appreciate it. I know managers that always had my back. Man, that was something because I did some knucklehead stuff. And it's like, but they're backing me. And that helps. And that makes me closer with him and have his back even more than I did.
For sure. One other thing, I'm sorry if I count on the Aaron thing.
No,
you mentioned the year they didn't make the playoffs, the 82 and 80 year. I know that there are some people high up at that organization who think that that was Aaron's masterpiece. And then he saved people's jobs that year. Because if you remember in August that year, it was trending toward the bottom falling out kind of season. It was going to be like, oh shit, we're going to lose 95 games here if it's a bad September. That and like people are going to get fired because this is the Yankees.
Right.
And Dominguez came up, gave a spark. Aaron kept everyone focused as the manager, and they finished over 500, keeping the Yankees' 30-plus year streak intact of winning seasons, which is important to that organization, and keeping it from being a disaster. And with like nothing, they had nothing. The team was a mess, and so you could even argue that a year like that, when he kept it somewhat above water, was a huge accomplishment. And that's the last thing.
I mean, you got to find something as players, as an organization. Some years just don't go your way and the writing's on the wall, but you got to find a way to get up in the morning and find a reason to go to the ballpark. Yeah. And that if that's a selfish reason, find that selfish reason, because in the end, it's going to pay off from a team aspect. The better I do my job, and I don't care if I'm as selfish as can be. I want the numbers. I want this and that. The better I play, the better my team's going to be because of it. So call it a selfish act or whatever. You got to find a reason to get up in the morning, drag yourself to the ballpark and perform at a high level, even when it's not the greatest times or the writing's on the wall, or you're not going to go to the postseason. You still got to find a way. And I think great clubs, it creates a lot of character. It builds for years in your future. But I think it's something necessary. And most of us who play this game long enough, we're going to have those lean times. It's very rare that you see a player. I remember when I had David Justice on the podcast, I was looking at his track record and I said, David, you played for like 16 or 17 years. You never didn't go to the postseason. He said, yeah, it was pretty cool. So most of us don't know what that's like.
No, that's not normal.
I go to the postseason every year. You know, the Braves run in the 90s, the Yankees run for about a 10-year period where they were winning World Series and collecting rings. That's not the norm, all you guys out there. The San Francisco Giants in 10, 12, and 14, that's not real life. Stuff like that doesn't happen to normal players. So, all right, let's get into this Yankee team. I'm seeing Stanton's moving. I see Aaron's comments. Yeah, Stanton's starting to move a little bit. He's doing this. He's doing that. Yeah. DJ, he's on the mend. I think he's at a rehab. But let's talk about the current roster, what you're seeing out of the new guys. I'll tell you, I've been watching Goldschmidt. Mm-hmm. Now, Goldschmidt, when they were signed, I thought, I think that's a good sign. It's a Rizzo type. It's a leader. It's a guy that's won MVPs, been in winning teams. Little older. I don't expect that MVP anymore, but I'm watching his at bats, Andy. It's almost like he had the knowledge to go, I'm not what I was, but I'm still going to be a really good hitter. I'm watching his at bats. He's a flat out good hitter. Fun to
Yeah.
watch. I didn't expect this. I think it's not going to surprise me one bit if Goldschmidt hits 320 this year with the
Yep.
approach he's taken right now. He's flat out good hitter, a good hitter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, the power's not, he's got one homer. But his AB's really impressing me. I can't imagine that I'd ever see Grisham doing what he's doing at this stage of the game. And Judge never hesitates to impress me. He's just MVP Judge like he always is. Take it away on and Stanton. I think still Stanton, if you can get him back and play a huge role in that offense. Tell me what you're seeing from the offense in New York.
Amazingly, you could make a rational argument that's a better team and even better offense without Soto, because it's just the Yankees took, and this isn't a dig on Soto at all, it's just that the Yankees took the opportunity to kind of change it up a little bit. They had the money from not paying Soto. They had the money to bring in Bellinger and Goldschmidt, Bellinger gives you that great athleticism. Goldschmidt gives you all the things you just described, Brett. And to your point about like him still being such a good hitter, first of all, he keeps himself in incredible shape. You talk about an older player. He doesn't look or move like an older player. So that helps. Glenn Sherlock, who's a coach with the Mets now, was a coach with Arizona for a long time, knows Goldschmidt really, really well personally. He told me back in spring training, he was like, there's no way this guy's going to have a repeat of last year. I just know him. He's too much of a pro. He's going to figure out how to make these adjustments and have a good year. Like you just said, he's doing, Brett. So there's that. I agree that Stanton will be huge when he comes back. He's at the point in his career now where just get him ready for the stretch run in the postseason. But it's going to be better than that. Those elbows are improving faster than anyone thought, so that's good. In the meantime, Ben Rice, who Aaron was on for
I forgot
a year or two.
I apologize for not mentioning Ben Rice. He's off to an unbelievable start.
He is, and like I said, 2 years ago, Aaron was like, "This guy's going to hit in the big leagues." From seeing him in spring training, and he's a legit hitter, creating a good problem to have. What do you do with him when Stanton comes back? They don't know yet, but like you said, Grisham, they're using the whole roster in a way. The outfield alignment without Soto, it kind of helps because you can move Judge back to right where he's much better than at center. You can get Grisham more time in center because Judge isn't in center. The way that Aaron he's been switching out, like substituting out Dominguez late in games, is a way to create this unbelievably elite defensive outfield. Bellinger, Grisham, Judge for the 8th and 9th. That's like incredible outfield in terms of being able to go and get the ball. So they've just got a lot of different things they can do with the roster. Whereas if they committed all that money to Soto, it would have been tough to do much else.
It's amazing to me. The Grisham thing is still amazing to me because he's coming in. He's that outfitter. We know he's a defensive wizard, and you're going to put him in late. You're going to give him spot at bats here and there. He's making that lineup choices really tough the way he's playing right now. It's like somebody's going to lose a little playing time. He keeps playing like this. He keeps hitting homers, but it's fun to watch and him doing that. Let's take it to the rotation. I think coming out of spring training, I thought, wow. With the loss of Cole, loss of Heel, like I mentioned at the top, I thought these guys just need to hold serve until Heel gets back, find a way to be okay. I love the Max Fried coming over. I like that from the get-go. But they're doing a hell of a lot more than holding serve. They're doing really well. Team-wise, I'm saying. What are you seeing out of that rotation? With the exception of Fried, he's been spectacular so far. Rodon, he had that game a couple games ago. We ended up giving up 3 or 4 in the 5th, but he pitched great up until the end. 8 punch outs. He's sitting at a mid 4 ERA. Fried's off the charts, tops in baseball. But Carrasco, Warren, Stroman, the situation with Stroman, Schmidt's come back. Tell me how that looks and some updates on Heel.
I think that it's probably fair to say that there's a bit of a lack of, I don't know what you call it, high-end depth for the middle and back of that rotation. You feel amazing about Fried, and having an ace is huge. He's been so impressive. I mean, just how smart he is with pitching. Watching him throw just his four-seam fastball. He'll it'll be for anywhere from 90 to 97 in over the course of a start. He's changing speeds. He's doing all kinds of clever things with his repertoire, reading swings, and just like a smart pitcher, pitching like an ace. That's great. Beyond that, he's still going to be a while with heel. Mid-season, midsummer, I'd say is probably as precise as we can be at this point, provided there's no setbacks. And then when you get into Rodon, who, don't tell Aaron I said this, but I still say, like, I understand that he's got really good stuff, but he's trying to be a different pitcher than the one that got paid. He's at a different point of his career. He's this dominant fastball slider guy. That's where he made his name. He was. And now he doesn't have that quite velocity and spin anymore. So he's trying to be a 4 or 5 pitch guy. It can work, but it's not, it's an adjustment to a different kind of guy. I don't think that the Yankees would have drawn it up. He's their number 2 in a perfect world at this stage of his career. So that's something, to watch. Stroman had that really rough start, and then he went down with a knee. And Will Warren is someone they were really excited about, who, the velo was down a little early in the season. The Yankees took note of that. The results haven't been great. And Carrasco's an NRI who you don't expect to be in your rotation all year. So I think that there's maybe some need to address coming up on the trade deadline in a little bit for the Yankees in the rotation. That would be a concern for me if I want to flag a concern with the team.
I agree, but I think Fried, I think you know what you're getting when he's healthy, when he's feeling. He's at the top of the rotation guy. That's just the way he is. I think you know what you're getting with a Schmidt. Being healthy, I think you know what you get with Clark Schmidt at this stage of his career. Rodon is the wild card. I mean, it never surprises me if Rodon goes out, pitches 6, gives up 1 run. That doesn't surprise me. And it also doesn't surprise me if he goes out 2 innings and gives up 6.
Yep.
Whereas if a Max Fried, that would be surprising if he does something like that. I don't know what I'm getting with Rodon. Haven't known for the last couple of years. He'll come out and look lights out, and then all of a sudden he has that inning where what happened there. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be this team continues to gel and stay at the top of that division in the mix all year. It's going to be a trading deadline thing, but I think it's a real strong division. Like I said, Boston's really good. Crochet, they've had some the Devers thing, and they've kind of gotten past that. But I just think up and down, Trevor Story's starting to play really well for Boston right now. I think they've got a lot of positive things. The Orioles kind of going the wrong way. You got rid of Burns. You didn't make any improvements, and they're kind of struggling, especially in the pitching category. And Toronto looks a lot better. The guys that are supposed to pitch good for them finally are pitching good. The Gosmans of the world, and Bassett, who came over from the A's. I think he's leading the league in ERA at this point. Berrios, he's always been a wild card for me, kind of like a Rodon. I never know what I'm going to get. Nothing impressive. Nothing. If he pitches shutout baseball, it doesn't surprise me. If he gets whacked, it doesn't surprise me. He's one of those guys. But I think it's going to be a good battle, like the like the National League East. I think the American League East is going to be a good battle as well. Last thing, and I'll let you out. Bullpen, Devin Williams. Weaver still hasn't given up a run. The closer a year ago now is kind of playing that. Devin's had some early, what are we going to call it? Some drama in the Bronx with late in the games, Williams coming into the game. And then the question I ask every year, I ask Aaron constantly, when's Loizaga coming back?
That is a yearly question.
That's nasty, but like you said, it's a yearly question. Address that, and I'll let you out of here.
He should be a few weeks away at this point, Loizaga, on the timetable that they've been laying out. So that's not going to be too long. They're going to get a Jake Cousins back, hopefully. They're a little short in the bullpen, and they're so deep that they've been managing anyway. But there's some key guys coming back. Efros is another one of those like Loizaga where there's impact there if he can stay healthy, and so that's another guy that's out. So they're missing a few guys that they'd like to be key. And I think that Williams has been legitimately a little unexpectedly dicey. And I did a little bit of a nerdy little look at some of the numbers on the changeup, and the pitch characteristics of the changeup are the same, but it's getting hit harder. His fastball is down a little. It's down a tick in velo, and it's down in some of those underlying numbers on the fastball. So it makes me wonder. You'd have a better answer for this as a hitter than I would as a writer, but it makes me wonder if Williams has lost a little something on his fastball. Is that making the changeup more hittable? Because he's getting his changeup hit like that great airbender has never been hit before so far this year. It kind of has been, even though the pitch still seems to have the same qualities. So I don't know if that when when you watch Williams, why do you think he's been more hittable lately than he has been in his career?
Well, the first thing that comes to me, and shoot, I'm dating myself, but there are changeups, and then there are Devin Williams changeups. There are split fingers. Then there's the kid in Dodgers split finger. Who's the the phenom from Japan they signed 2 years ago.
Yamamoto.
Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Then there's that when
Right.
Hideo Nomo came on the scene. There were split fingers, and then there was Hideo's split finger.
Yeah.
So it's a different. If the average pitcher comes in, and I know he's fastball, slider, cutter, changeup. If I'm sitting soft, I don't care how good of a slider you throw me. If it's in the zone, I have a good chance to put a good swing on it. With those elite pitches, not pitchers, the Trevor Hoffman changeup, the Yamamoto split. I may look for it, sit on it, get it, and it's still 50-50 whether I can touch it. I think that's a Devin Williams changeup, and for some reason, it doesn't have that something to it. Now, I don't know if it's tangible. I don't know if you can look it up on data points, but the way it's coming in, the way players are receiving it is different. Because, the elite hitters especially, they're not going up against Devin Williams and sitting fastball and adjusting. Because as hitters, what we don't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
And that type of changeup can embarrass you. A lot of these guys are sitting on it. Now, his success in the past is, and I've had that before. I'd go up and sit on Trevor's changeup. He'd throw me 3, and I'd be lucky to tick one. I'd go back to the dugout. I said, boys, good luck. He's got the good one.
Yeah.
It's just one of those invisibles. Like you see it out of his hand, and it never gets there. It's the knuckleball from Tim Wakefield. If he's got his good one, I can sit on it all day, get in my softball stance, get it, and it just disappears. And there's nothing you can do about it as a hitter. That's, I think, was Devin's. He had that goofy ball that nobody else has. And all of a sudden, they're still approaching him the same way. But there's something not quite as special about it right now.
Yeah.
He's got to figure it out. The only thing I can point to, and this is dating myself as well, back in the early 2000s, we had a rotation in Seattle, and Paul Abbott, if you remember the name, was our 4th starter. He won 17 games. I think he went 17-4. He had one of those unbelievable changeups. I mean, guys are missing it by 2 feet, and I watched it all year. Guys missed this ball by 2 feet. Well, fast forward a year later, 2 years later, it wasn't the same. And I'd see him in the video room when I was watching my at-bats, and he'd be, weird to see pitchers in there during a game.
Yeah.
But I would say, Abby, what are you doing? He goes, Booney, I can't find that changeup that I had 2 years ago. It's just not the same. And obviously hitters, it wasn't the same to them either. Because he went from 17-4 to struggling to leaving Seattle and he said it was all because he couldn't get his changeup right again. That's the only thing I can get. And I think he's going through a tough time right now. Maybe he finds that, but the fastball being down, it might have something to do with it. But for me, is that funny pitch. The funny pitch is the funny pitch for a reason. And when it's a little less funny and a little more gettable, it's kind of like a change. It's kind of like the Wakefield thing. If Wakefield had his good knuckleball, it's kind of blindfold yourself, take a swing, and if you hit it, you're almost like, whoa, how'd I do that? It fell into my bat. Because I could do everything fundamentally perfect.
Yeah.
Put a great swing on it. And if that knuckleball has a mind of its own, it's just not going to be where your bat is. And that's just the way it is. So that's my long-winded take. And I don't know how accurate it is because right now I'm not in the box. But that's my best educated guess.
And as a follow-up to that, if you're sitting changeup on a Williams anyway, tipping wouldn't really help you that much, right? Because you're looking change up anyway. Like if you were tipping it right now, would that not help that much?
Well, tipping's always going to help because if I'm sitting change up, but I know a fastball is coming, now I can gear up for that fastball.
I see. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because there's some thought.
That's where it's going to help me when, I know I'm getting a fastball. Because not that it's not that it's an elementary fastballs that he's got, but when a guy's got that Bugs Bunny pitch, but I know I'm getting the heater and I can crank up for 100% heater, man, my percentage of being successful here just went up a whole lot. Because
Okay, that
those
makes
guys,
sense.
the one thing they have over you, Yamamoto's fastball, it's not fooling anybody. Okay.
Right.
If he said, I'm going to throw you a fastball, big league hitters are going to hit his fast. I don't care if it's 95, 97, 90. It doesn't matter. It's that in the back of your mind, don't let him embarrass you with that split. And that's as hitters, that's what gets us. I don't know. I know he's throwing the split off fastball. Now that fastball is so successful because he can throw it wherever he wants. Trevor used to do that to me all the time because he had really good control. And at the end of his career, he's throwing 90. That's it. But he could pinpoint it for a strike.
Right.
He had
that makes a lot of sense.
He had me so wrapped up on, all right, I know he's coming at me with the changeup, and he'd get that little first pitch fastball, get me over 90-mile-an-hour heater on the outside corner for strike one, and he'd just kind of smile at me. And I'd be
So
like,
if a changeup guy is, if a changeup guy's flaring the glove a little or bringing his hands up a little different, that can help.
If you
now
can,
you know.
if you can catch that and go, okay, I know it's not a changeup. Here's my time to get him. Because probably even when he doesn't have his best changeup, it's still not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
But if I know I'm getting that fastball and I can put all my energy into one pitch and I don't have to worry about putting on the brakes and lay off a breaking ball, you've just made the game a lot easier as a hitter. And as you know, hitting to me, toughest thing you can possibly do. But if I can eliminate a pitch, that I'm way ahead of the game. My success rate goes way up.
Well, next time you're off the record with your brother, find out if that's going on because there's some thought that it might be, but certainly nothing provable yet.
And I think so too, because I got buddies that are big Yankee fans. You know, childhood friends of the Boone family, and what's going on, Devin Williams? You know, a typical Yankee fan with the accent, still yelling at me like I'm managing. I said, why don't you call Aaron? You know, I'm not managing here. I'm running this podcast over here. Leave me alone. But I'm going to start watching because that's the one thing when the guys have that great one pitch, when it starts to get hit, are they giving it away a little bit? And believe me, the guys on the other side, if they are giving it away, mum is going to be the word. That's going to be as underground as possible. That they know or they see something. So, well, Andy, I appreciate it, man. A lot of fun. I love having you on and always great insight. And hopefully I'll run into you this summer somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Probably have you back on. We're going to be talking probably in a couple months about Yankee Mets again. And hopefully now I can be biased. Hopefully Aaron's Yankees are leading the division. And it'll be.
You can be biased about that. You're allowed. Family. Yes, I'll come on anytime you want. And you come over to Yankee Stadium sometime. See you in person and shoot me a text.
I'm a little bit of a snob. I only go to the old Yankee Stadium.
Well, I understand. You can go stand in the park. That's where it is now. I guess if you really want. It was better, no doubt about that.
Well, Eddie, thank you.
All right.
For those of you watching the Bret Boone podcast now with our own YouTube channel, check it out. For those of you listening, downloading the Odyssey app or wherever you download your podcast. Till next time, keep it here.